This video covers installing and configuring work folders. The first step is to install the work folders role service. This can be done through Server Manager via Add Roles and Features, selecting the server, and then it's available under File and Storage Services, File and iSCSI Services, and then at the bottom of the list you'll see Work Folders. Select that and perform the installation. This could obviously also be done through PowerShell as for all roles and features in Windows Server. Once it is installed, it's managed through Server Manager or PowerShell. This is through File and Storage Services, and I now have a new Work Folders option. I have already gone ahead and actually created a new work folder share, but this can be done by performing tasks, new sync share. This will prompt you for a location to use for this new work folder synchronization share. So I can specify it by an existing file share, or I could enter a new path. For example, I could select my C folder and an existing directory, or just create a new one. So I should go ahead and create that. Each user has their own folder. Now these may exist already in the case of it's an existing home folder share, but I can also create new folders for the users, and I can do it by their alias or their email alias, so it includes the domain. I can, if I wish, say only sync a specific subfolder from this user level information. For example, I may have a folder for every user, but that may contain their profile as well, whereas their data actually lives in a subfolder of the user's folder. I may elect to only synchronize that subfolder of each of these root level user folders. I can create a name for this sync share, and then I'm going to control who has access to use this. Now, if I'm going to have more than one work folder, it's very important I don't just add domain users. I should only add the specific groups of people, for example, sales or marketing, that will specifically have their data stored on this specific work folder. So I could go and add a particular group of users. In my case, I'll just add domain users. I can then specify if there should be encryption and if I want to enforce my security policy. I see a confirmation and I would then click Create. But I already have one of these created, so I'm going to hit Cancel. You can see once this has been created, so I could actually right click on my existing synchronization share. You can see the policies that I have enforced. I can see a folder is created for each of the users. Well, specifically, all of the users that exist in domain users in my case. I only have one server in this lab environment. I can also see the space available. And I can also apply things like quotas, which will actually use the File Server Resource Manager. There is no quotaing or file screening that is part of work folders. It will use the underlying operating system's File Server Resource Manager. I can also create these synchronization shares using PowerShell. I would use the new-sync share commandlet, and I specify the share name, the location, the users that will use it, and if I require encryption, and the password auto-lock security. This would go ahead and create that configuration, and at this point my work folder server is ready. There are a few other steps that can be taken. For example, the connectivity is actually done via SSL, so I need a certificate on my server. If I look at the certificate store for this local machine, you'll see I have a certificate issued to Sav-Dal iSCSI 01, the name of this server, and it was issued by my enterprise CA. When I look at the certificate, however, I see the details. I have something called a subject alternative name, specifically workfolders.saviltech.net. I require this for work folders to function, as one of the key ways clients will actually find your work folder is you will go ahead and create a DNS entry. This is my domain controller and DNS server. You can see I've created an alias record called work folders, and this points to my actual work folder server. And so the client will actually be using HTTPS to talk to workfolders.yourdomain. And so the certificate has to match this in addition to its fully qualified domain name, which is why you can see on my server the certificate I use for HTTPS has a subject alternative name of workfolders.yourdomainname. Now, you can request this using Certificate Manager to your CA by specifying the advanced properties. I cover this in this slide, so it's important you do have that subject alternative name specified for your certificate. To do this manually, in my certificates, I could say request new certificate. I'm going to get it from my Active Directory enrollment policy. Then I need to select a certificate template that is not auto-configured and auto-populated. I need to be able to go and select specific attributes for that certificate. Here you can see web server requires information, which is what I want to perform. So I'm going to click here to configure the settings. You'll notice this gives me the option to enter alternative names. So for example, my common name may be the name of my server, savdal.iscuzzy01.saviltech.net. For my alternate names, I may add DNS of that server, but I would also add work folders. I would then submit this certificate request. I cover this in detail in this particular frequently asked questions. So if you go to windowsitpro.com, Windows-Server, custom-SAN-certificate, I walk through this step by step. So you now have a certificate that I can use for HTTPS that works with my real DNS name and the work folders name. You would also go ahead and create this alias for work folders that points to all of your work folders. So if I have more than one work folder, it would point to all of them. At this point, your environment is ready to be used by work folder clients.